set in 1995, and based loosely on the memoir of Iceland TV chef Eddie Huang. Fresh Off the Boat is about the fictionalized Huangs, a family of Taiwanese Americans who moved from Washington, D.C.'s Chinatown to a mostly white neighborhood in Orlando, Florida, so Dad Lewis can open a cowboy-themed steakhouse. Fresh Off the Boat shows Hollywood there's life beyond Yellowface. Read more. First airing in the States in 2015, it was the first U.S. network TV show about an Asian American family since Margaret Cho's short-lived All-American Girl in 1994. As for the UK, even if we admit all Asian diaspora sitcoms into the category, it still sits alongside Citizen Khan and the Kumars at number 42 in a tiny handful. There have, of course, been Asian characters in other shows, including, unusually, an Asian male love interest in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. But nothing quite like Fresh Off the Boat, with its 90s hip-hop references and acutely observed relationships. Creator and showrunner Nahnatchka Khan says the important difference is the perspective. It's told from the inside out, meaning the Huangs are always the ones who are telling the story, not the ones being looked at in a fishbowl and pointed at. They're not like the funny neighbor or the weird guy at work. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. Watch a clip. Fresh Off the Boat. If Fresh Off the Boat's delay in reaching British screens has one significant benefit, it's that we're getting to it at a triumphant point where the critics have already been proved wrong. Chief among them was Eddie Huang himself, the man whose life story inspired the show's creation and on whom the central character, 11-year-old hip-hop obsessive Eddie, was modeled. In a New York Magazine piece published shortly before the show premiered, Huang described the medium of network television as the one-size-fits-all antithesis to the specific and authentic story of his book. He also sharply dismissed the show itself as a universal, ambiguous, cornstarch story about Asian Americans resembling Mugu Gai Pan, an Americanized version of a Cantonese dish written by a Persian American who cut her teeth on race relations writing for Seth MacFarlane. Daca dramas: How Immigration Became U.S. TV's New Obsession. Read more. That Persian American would-be Khan, whose previous credits include a stint on the MacFarlane co-created American Dad as well as creating the cancelled Too Soon Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. Yeah, Eddie Huang hasn't been around in a couple of seasons, she says evenly when asked about his ongoing relationship with the show. He did the voiceover in season 1 and then that was it. In the meantime, the writing team that Khan heads up has become concerned less with remaining loyal to Wang's original vision and more with developing ideas of their own. As for the restrictions of working in network television, Khan feels it's a production style that suits her creative goals. The family sitcom is not, after all, intended to project the unfiltered voice of a single creative genius, but to include all the individuals who make up a family unit. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. Shape. The cast of Fresh Off the Boat. Photograph Bob D'Amico. ABC. Getty. Khan's deliberately diverse writer's room includes young talent who can connect with the specifics of the Huang's story. There's Sheng Wang, a stand-up who grew up as part of the only Taiwanese family in Houston, Texas in the mid-90s, and Sanjay Shah, an Indian-American King of the Hill alumnus whose dad owned a Burger King in Sacramento. Yet, despite Wang's intimations otherwise, Khan also recognizes elements of her own upbringing. I really related to that experience of being what we call the bridge generation, and always trying to navigate your more traditional growing up experiences with wanting the latest Air Jordans or whatever it is. Trying to explain to your parents why. And they just, don't get it. Fresh Off the Boat, a new perspective on race, with laughs. Read more. In the show, it's strict mum Jessica, played by Taiwanese-American actor Constance Wu, who minds the most comedy from this parental bafflement. Young Eddie is the heart of the show, but viewers may often find themselves nodding along in sympathy when Jessica questions the appropriateness of her son's worship of old dirty bastard or fails to grasp the entertainment value in the American sport of NASCAR. This kind of Jessica-generated subplot is, says Khan, a small example of how, when you're looking at a family sitcom through a different lens, it just opens up different ways of storytelling. Wu, who in real life speaks with an American accent and says "rad" a lot, has previously expressed frustration with a lack of screen representation of Asian Americans and the Hollywood practice of casting white actors in non-white roles in 2016, the actor called on Hollywood to stop perpetuating the racist myth that only a white man can save the world, in response to Matt Damon's casting in the film The Great Wall. Today, though, she's in a more forgiving mood. When people whitewash roles, usually they're people who have good intentions, but they just don't know, and the only way you make them know is to start a conversation. She has also been particularly impressed by popular network television's power to do just that. I get people coming up to me in tears because they are so moved by the fact that there is a show where Asian Americans are front and center. And not only that, their ethnicity is important to character, rather than being incidental. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, breaking stereotypes. Margaret Cho in All American Girl. Photograph, ABC, Getty. The danger of playing race relations for laughs, however, is that you end up in offensive stereotype territory. TV comedy is still littered with examples of tech-savvy geeks and shrieking dragon ladies, but Fresh Off the Boat avoids this. I can understand how, if someone just ate a trailer or one episode, they could cringe at the idea that Jessica may fit into a stereotype, says Wu. But because she is one of the stars of the show, there's an opportunity to explore other parts of her that aren't Tiger Momesh, and also the feelings and dreams she has that may have shaped her. Margaret Cho. If Trump becomes president, the whole world's in big trouble. Read more. It's this kind of in-depth, culturally rooted characterization, says Wu, that has made Jessica a favorite with the show's fans. She's obviously an immigrant. She didn't grow up in American culture. She didn't grow up speaking the language, so she has an accent, yet she still doesn't think that's any reason for her not to have a voice. She still has confidence in her point of view, even when exterior forces encourage her not to. She still stays true to herself. Through this affectionate exploration of the parents' perspective as well as the kids, Fresh Off the Boat has evolved into more than just a popular, funny sitcom. It's a kind of 70-episode and counting thank you letter from the bridge generation to their immigrant parents. Now that we're grown-ups, it's like, you know what? My mum wasn't let off, I get it, you know, says Khan. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Man Overboard. Eddie Huang. Photograph, Chris Connor. Getty. Yet still, the show's most important achievement may be in the less soppy business acumen category, of which Jessica would no doubt approve. For a long time, film and television industries claimed the reason for not telling Asian American stories was a commercial decision, based on the vague assumption that non-Asian viewers wouldn't be interested. Networks love data, says Khan. They love to be able to look at numbers and try to predict what they think will work. We showed that there is an audience for this, and now let's just keep going. Eddie Huang won't back down. I'm on TV because I tell the truth. Read more. Fresh Off the Boat's success means it's now possible to look to the future with confidence. I think the next step is not positive representation but just more representation in general, narrative plenitude, instead of narrative scarcity, says Wu. Then you don't have to cringe. Brace yourself every time you see an Asian on screen because you're scared that they're going to misrepresent you. Once the fear was that the tired conventions of main television would smother the truth of the immigrant story. Instead, it seems, the opposite has happened. The immigrant story has made the family sitcom feel fresh again. Fresh Off the Boat is on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on 5STAR.